And hello, everybody, and welcome to the June episode of TRPG, the talk show. My name is Nikki, and I am the producer here at TRPG. And you can find me everywhere online at halfling_Nikki, and I am a 5th grade teacher and an LGBTQ and disability advocate. So, super excited to have a couple of really awesome guests. But before we get started, why don't you introduce yourself, Darby?
Hello, my name is Darby. You can find me on the internet as Chaotic Darby on Twitch and Twitter. I am the technical admin here on TTRPG. As well, yeah. I do things. I exist. I use she, her pronouns.
What have you been up to in the TTRPG sphere this week?
Oh, geez, Louise. I played in a Thirsty Sword lesbian game on High Shelf Collective. That was a lot of fun. Got to be cool and have a sword and get smitten. Love Thirsty Sword lesbians. And did another episode of Shadowrun on Weave the Tale.
Awesome.
My current brain rot character.
Yeah, do you ever get like the hyper focus, like I'm only thinking about this character and that's the only thing I think about right now?
Oh yeah,
because that's been me with my Haunted West character. So kind of obsessed with her right now.
I feel you. The Shadowrun character playlist I've listened to that playlist over 1,000 times. Yeah. That is how many times I've listened to that playlist.
Well, and I made this character. She's super sad, so I have made the saddest like Spotify playlist I've ever made. I'll send it to you later. Yes. But yes, it is very good, and it's going to be very sad and very good and awesome, and I'm excited. This week I did School's Out Forever. And that was really fun. So I had that concept for a good like 6 months or so and really wanted to do an all educators one shot of When the Sun Dies because I was like, how cathartic. Like this year was so stressful. So let's pretend the world is ending. It was very queer. There was hookups. It was wonderful. It was a great old time. The perfect way to go out with a bang. So what's in your cup today?
In my cup, I have water, though I desperately wish that I was capable of consuming caffeine.
I am drinking, I've had plenty of caffeine today, so I'm just having like one of those little decaf constant comment teas because it's got like a little orange flavor and it's so good. And I'm using my very fancy cup because I felt like I should. It's got little butterflies and flowers all over it. A friend found that at a thrift store. Monroe, who's Monroe98 on Twitter, found it for me at the thrift store they were working at. So it's a very special cup.
That is a good thrift store find.
Right? Would you like to intro our first guest?
Sure. All right. To introduce our first guest, Charlene Bayer, executive producer and dungeon goddess of Tabletop Titties TTRPG show, horror lover, and creator of Drinking and Scheming podcast, and the creator of Streaming for Survivors charity event. Hello.
Oh, that's me. Woohoo! Thanks so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Alrighty. We're excited to have you too. Have you back. This is not the first time you've appeared on our channel.
That's right. Yes.
Hell yeah. But to start us
off,
off,
I'm not in a bear outfit though.
Yeah. But you still look awesome. To start us off, would you like to tell us what is in your cup today, this morning?
Yes. Before we started, I was, poo-pooing myself because I did not brew a tea. And how could I come on TRPG without one? But today I have just, solid H2O that's been cold in the fridge. So it's extra, icy without having the clinky clanks of ice cubes, which I am enjoying.
H2O to stay hydrated, yo.
Yup.
Yeah, who would ever appear on TTRPG without tea?
It made me feel better that you had water also, Darby. I was like, there we go. Someone else like me.
Yeah. It's my parents' greatest joy that I literally only drink water when I went out for meals. They So I feel like every time I eat food, I have to have water and I don't order anything else.
Yeah, my
As a
family
kid,
was
super
so
happy.
frugal as a kid when I was young as well. It was always just water whenever we went out. Now that I'm an adult on my own, I tend to, get a lot more alcoholic beverages when I order food. But on talk shows, yeah, water's good.
Alrighty. So our first question for you today is pretend our audience knows nothing about tabletops or titties. How would you describe tabletop titties to them?
Ooh, that's great. Okay, so we are a streamed show, so much like how you're watching TTRPG right now, it would be very similar. We're on Twitch every Tuesday nights at 7:30, and we play make believe while rolling dice to help affect the outcomes. We have two main shows that we do, which are Dungeons and Dragons, the typical big TTRPG game that most folks would know. And then the other long running game that we have on the channel is Vampire the Masquerade. So, vampires in Victorian London trying to solve mysteries and whatnot. And we call ourselves Tabletop Titties because our channel is run entirely by people of marginalized gender. So, everyone can have some titties. Plus, it's got double D's with the dice. I'm trying to make some wordplay there. But we just wanted to have a space that was safe for queer folk, for folks who typically are not seen as often in the TTRPG space. It's a lot of cishet white guys that are on a lot of actual play shows, and we wanted to try and break that mold. A lot like what you're doing on TTRPG here too.
Heck yes. We love tabletop. We love titties here. And we love having streams populated by not cishet straight white men,
Yeah.
Het and straight are kind of the same thing. Whoops. It's a line. But okie dokie. Thank you for that. So the next question I have for you is also starts out with a full sentence and not just a question. Tell us about Octavia and what do you enjoy about playing them?
Oh, you've done your research. I didn't even mention that. Yeah, Octavia is the character that I get to play in our Vampire the Masquerade game, which is story told by Kelly Wright. So it's great for me to get a chance to actually just be a player, not have to run the game while we're streaming. And our show this is a Vampire the Masquerade show, which is typically very like dark, broody, high stakes in terms of political intrigue. But what we've done on our channel is really sort of revert that and make it sort of like gay kids running around trying to solve crime, but in a much lighthearted way compared to the regular shows you would usually see in this category. But Octavia is super cool because she has she/they pronouns, and they are a demisexual person like me, which means that a lot of like my romance opportunities are long and really getting to the heart of someone's character before we get to have any romance, which is nice. They're a blind vampire, so they have a guide dog named Prophet that follows them around that also has vampire abilities now. He like has tendrils that come out. He's like a shapeshifter. Super cool, super epic. And it's been really fun to just explore the world that Kelly, our storyteller, has created. And this next season that we've just started season 2. We have new cast members as well, which has been like excellent to dive into the creative spot with all of them. Yeah.
Awesome. Vampire dog. Do you ever watch that? There's like this horrible little kids movie called like Little Vampire that came out like you said vampire dog, and I'm thinking of those vampire cows and how they like it was just like the worst CGI on the planet, just like these flying black and white blobs that
There's also like a really bad Netflix movie, like it's about a vampire puppy. I don't remember anything else about it. Maybe I dreamt it, but I'm gonna Google it and see if I can find it.
Okay, you have to Google that. You can't, that has to be real. And if somebody hasn't already made it, they're going to. Like, we've got a Google executive like listening in right now going like, yes, this is gonna be the next like top hit.
Wasn't a fever dream, it exists.
What's it called? What is it called though, Nikki? What's the title?
It's literally called Vampire Dog.
No, it doesn't even have a pun. Doggone it, they didn't do a pun.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I derailed.
No, it's good. It's good. This important vampire dog content here.
Yes, clearly. Prophet approves for
This
sure.
TTRPG, the home of tea, titties, and vampire dogs.
Yep. Octavia's like also all of her abilities are very supernatural. She's a Tremere, which is the clan that lets you do like blood sorcery, connecting with the spirit world. And because we're playing in Victorian London, we've also sort of like mainly we use the V5 system edition, but we also sort of like pick and choose from different elements of past iterations that are more Victorian themed. So getting to work with the ghosts and stuff has been great. And Prophet is always included in that in terms of he's literally a bloodhound. So some of my abilities let him like track the trails of ghosts and stuff.
Yeah, what is it? There's one blood sorcery you can do is like on the trail or illuminate the trail of prey or something like that.
You got it.
Down.
Yeah.
I used to the first VTM character, actually this is what my vampire character would wear. My first actual play, I played a Tremere. So I'm like, Tremere is
perfect.
Yes, nerds. Like it's literally just a vampire nerd, baby.
Yep. I'm the bookish one for sure. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for telling us about Octavia and Prophet, the best boy. So our next question. Every time I say question, it has a full sentence, and then I'll say, the full sentence. We got to help out with streaming for survivors through Women of D&D. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your work with streaming for survivors? There's like a couple sub questions here. So what has been your most memorable moment from streaming for survivors? We'll start you with that.
That's a great question. This last year, it's been going on for 2 years now. Streaming for Survivors is a charity fundraising event that we do at WAVA Rape Crisis Center. It's something that allows us to raise critical life-saving funds to support survivors of sexualized violence, which is great that this is our Pride episode of TTRPG because WAVA supports all survivors of marginalized gender, which includes cis and trans women, non-binary folks, gender diverse folks, two-spirit people, you name it, as long as you're not a cis white guy or a cis man, then WAVA has you covered. And with Streaming for Survivors, Nikki, you were such a great help this last year. We worked with Women of D&D, as you said, Darby, and Nikki came on as a producer for that show, which was so great. And it was something that was really impactful with our community because we were able to get, was it 12 hours of content? That was like almost the whole day that you did for one of the days of the week.
Yeah, it was a Saturday and there was a show. I only produced 2 of the shows, but there was a show at like 10 a.m. and then I think it was 2 p.m. and then 5 p.m. and then 8 p.m. and I ran tech for the 2 shows in the middle.
Yeah.
And it was so fun. Both were hilarious, but the Honey Heist one, I was in pain afterwards because my face hurt, my abs hurt. I was like crying, laughing because it was just, so you guys all had so much fun, and to the point that like I had to create a channel in our Discord that just says "fuck Big Honey," and put all the people from Honey Heist into it so they could like still chat with each other because they had such a good time together. So, and that's the kind of stuff I love to see.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that game was also great for Honey Heist because so many folks showed up like all out. Riley had on her bear onesie and like we had chat goals with donations that got her to like shake her tail in front of the camera. Super, super great.
All the bear puns were also immaculate.
There was a counter on screen for each one.
Yeah, shout out to Cameron for like taking over that role and making sure that we counted all of the puns.
Yeah. So the whole Women of D&D event this past year was a really great highlight for Streaming for Survivors. And then of course every year that we do it, we also have like one big D&D level 20 game, and we always have B. Dave Walters as our DM. I join in to play, and then we try and get a celebrity cast to come in and, you know, drive donations for those critical life-saving support services. And that's always a highlight of my year. I feel I do it as my job at Wava, but also it's just like a dream come true to be able to do that and play with those folks. Like this past year we had Brennan Lee Mulligan. That was like, I was starstruck, pooping my pants there.
Yep.
But yeah, everybody that ever participates in Streaming for Survivors, we're always so grateful for it, and so moved. And it just gets bigger every year. Our first year we raised like $30,000 from a weekend of streaming, and then this last iteration that we did, we raised over $100,000 for Survivors, which is astounding. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. $30,000 is amazing. All right. My next question for you on a related topic. How much have you raised for Wava so far?
Well, there we go. Yeah. So
which is
overall,
boom.
like just under, I think, $180,000 has been raised for Survivors over the last 2 years through Streaming for Survivors, which is heavily like TTRPG related, but it's also just sort of like Extra Life. Like anyone can stream for Survivors, anyone can participate. We've had folks do live music, we've had folks play video games with like their chat affecting their decision-making trees, you know, if they're playing like Life is Strange or whatever. And then of course I love TTRPG, so I'm always trying to get the TTRPG community involved somehow.
Heck yes. Awesome. And I think we hit that last one. We were talking about Wava. So I guess we'll move on to the next little segment. What kind of safety tools or expectations for players and GMs do you think help with the creation of safe spaces in TTRPGs?
Ooh, this is a really good question. Yeah. I have a few things that I always like to use. With Tabletop Titties, we have a consent form that we use for all of our games, and that includes whether it's just a one-shot or whether it's a full campaign, we always use our consent sheets. It's just a great way to have during your session 0, a way for you to all be literally on the same page in writing so that you can have something to refer to if you ever are between sessions or whatever, you need a refresher of what everyone has consented to in terms of, let's say, for example, it works for any type of game, but if you're playing a horror game, specifically, you want to have those sort of lines and boundaries that you know you can explore and dive deep into things while everyone will still be excited about the horror and you're not literally harming someone that's at your table. So consent sheets I always find are great. They're also a great way that you can like have tough conversations without needing to verbalize them, which is sometimes a big inhibitor for folks to be able to share things that they need in terms of safety. And then something else that we use is like the X card, of course, if ever something comes up live in a game, either something that you're streaming or even something at your own private table, you can have an X card, say X, or make an X on screen, and then the party can just sort of like shift away from that. And then the last one that we use is sort of like a jumping off point from the X card as well, which is just red, yellow, green. So during scenes, if things are taking a heavy turn, you can like type in chat or, you know, hold a card or say to the table, you know, I'm really liking where this is going, like keep it up, and you can like point you to your green card. But if you're feeling, oh, I'm a little bit, this is taking a turn that I want to finish the scene, but I don't want to go too much more into detail on this, maybe you would say like yellow card in chat. And then of course, red card is basically like the X card where you would just like change the scenario going forward. And those are the 3 main ones that we use. But I'm curious about you folks too. What are some of your really great tools that you've been using?
Okay, so before every session 0, and lately it's been on the day of session 0 because I've been very busy with the last 3 weeks of school, and overloading May and June. I don't know why I did that to myself. But usually what we do is we try to get the RPG consent form out, and then we make a lines and veils sheet, and then we tell everyone, okay, let's go read that. If I can avoid it, I won't read it out loud because I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable. But we do go through and we make sure everyone knows. And it's a requirement. And if a person doesn't fill it out, then we make a point to say, like, if you don't fill it out, you might have a line that doesn't get put on the list. So make sure you fill it out. And we keep it anonymous, so I can't tell who filled it out. And so it's on everyone else to make sure that they do that, which is, it's a positive and negative because we want people to be comfortable filling it out, but we also don't know sometimes when everyone has. So we try to do like little emoji reactions. Like, I checked that. After we do that, we also let the GMs decide which safety tools they are going to use at the table. So either X and O system or red light, green light, that kind of system. But we do require it as something they have to set up. But they can choose which one they want to use as long as everyone knows how to use it. And then we have a session 0 policy that is if you, for any reason after session 0, feel like, oh, this is not the vibe for me, or your schedule's too busy or whatever, we do not ask questions. You can just tell us, I can no longer do this stream. It doesn't mean that I won't cast you in other things. It just means that that wasn't the right group for you, or the right show for you, or the right time for you. And so that also helps a lot because then nobody is streaming with people that they're not fully comfortable with. So that's another really important safety tool. And then we also just have very strict casting policy, which you're in our Discord, so you've seen it. We require that, I call it my not the only one policy. So if you're not going to be the only non-cis person at the table, you'll never be the only queer person at the table. Like I said earlier, I don't think we've had I don't know how many, very few straight people have been on our channel. So we definitely have that going also. We try not to, there's no tokenism happening. So there's not ever going to be less than 2 BIPOC people on the cast. Most often there's maybe one white person on the cast and the rest of everyone else is BIPOC, which is really important to us. And so I think that what's been really cool, so it's like we grow slowly because we have these very stringent policies, but what's been really cool is that we haven't had drama in our Discord, and we haven't had people treating each other poorly and stuff like that. And so I think all of those ways that we put our priorities and our those strict policies forward really do lend itself to a safer environment for playing tabletop role-playing games. So yeah.
Completely. I love that. It's also going back to the consent sheet thing too. If folks don't fill it out, and not only is there the chance that like your line might not be on there, but if you're not really aware, if you're not taking a look at what's on the sheet, then you're not aware of what you need to hold back for other folks to feel safe at the table too. So if you're not filling that out, that's a no-go for me.
And I mean, and we have a thing where it's like, we have neurodivergent people who join us, and like I forget to do things, so I don't expect, like, I try to remind people as much as possible, and then I just say it again, like during our spiel. One of us has to be in the meeting from one of us on the admin team needs to be at the session 0 so we can do a little spiel, and if we're not on the show, we leave. And so part of that spiel is saying, like, if you didn't fill this out, like, this is blah blah blah, and then it's, you have to read the lines and veils because you don't want to cross someone else's boundary. Hasn't happened yet, but I am not afraid to kick someone off a stream if they are treating others disrespectfully, and part of that is crossing boundaries because you were ignorant to them because you didn't bother reading the list, which has not happened, thankfully. And then when it's happened on accident, where boundaries have been crossed, it's usually talked about afterwards. And so we had, there was a boundary crossed during Avatar reclamations, and we had a good long meeting about it afterwards and discussed how we were going to move forward from that. And I think that the fact that the people who were hurt fully were ready for the next episode within a week shows a lot about the kind of care that we put into things around here. So
totally. Yeah. That's also it brings up at Tabletop Titties, we also do Stars and Wishes, which is sort of like Roses and Thorns in terms of like after a show, you get to debrief with everyone and point out things that you loved or you hope to see more of. And then also things that maybe were like sticky points, or in some cases it might be something big like, oh, remember this thing's on our lines and veils and we need to not dive too deep into that or something like that. And it's a great tool to use in terms of giving everyone an opportunity to share. And since we're like a baby channel, we're only 2 years old, a chance for all of us to grow as performers and producers of tabletop in a way that can ensure everyone's safety and growth throughout the process, for sure.
Yeah. And we just had our 1 year anniversary, so I'm really proud of how far we've come in just under in a year, in the community that we've built with such awesome people such as yourself and everyone else that comes on our talk show and plays in our games, because I'm an extrovert. I am a person. I will collect all of the friends like Pokemon. So that's been the best part about this community, is making such awesome friends, for sure.
Yeah. And I think I saw something on Twitter recently that's been sort of living in my head for a bit, where it's like everyone wants a DM who's like like a great DM, like a B. Dave Walters or a Matthew Mercer or a Brendan Lee Mulligan. But you have to remember that you also have to be like a Lou Wilson or like a Marisha Ray or a Travis William, or you have to be a great player too. Like it's it's not just your GM. Like you have to, players are we have to put in some work too, and that means like doing your lines and veils, making sure you're not crossing anyone's lines and veils, and giving your GM feedback on things. So I don't know, just like kind of a tangent off of what you all were talking about, but
well, it also takes a team to run a channel, right? Like, yeah, I've been producing and casting and scheduling shows, and then we've got Kelsey helps out with the communications and making promos and all these things, and Darby's back there doing all the technical admin, making sure that things get put onto YouTube and setting things up so that they're smooth. And I think that is a really important part of it as well.
We're all in this together.
Bing!
That musical I didn't watch. Well, our last question for you before we introduce our next guest is plugs? Question mark?
Plugs? Oh, baby. I mean, I've been plugging this entire time. Tabletop Titties. That is, of course, with double D's, is on Twitch. I think they're in the chat. You can just click that link. But we stream every Tuesday and Wednesday evenings, Pacific time, 7 and 8:30 respectively. And of course, we're always doing some one-shots every now and then. So check us out. Follow us on Twitter. I also it's kind of TTRPG adjacent, I guess. My other podcast is Drinking and Screaming, which is a queer and feminist take on horror movies, and each week we make a cocktail to match the film that we watch. So check that out as well. It's available wherever podcasts are found, but that one's not streamed, just podcasts only. And me, I'm Charlene Bayer. You can follow me on all of the socials at Charlene Bayer. Just my name. Check me out.
All right, and our next guest is game designer Mix Brian Liberge, and I'm so excited to see you again. How are you doing, Brian?
Sorry, I had muted myself. Hi, everybody. I'm doing good. I'm doing all right. I am a little tired. I had a busy weekend, but the joy is just coming back into my body now that I'm here.
Yay! That's what we like to hear. And so before we dive into very specific questions to who you are, can you tell us what's in your cup? What are you drinking today?
Yeah. What do we got? I got my, there it is. I got my Do More of What Makes You Happy mug here.
Oh, that's cute.
And I'm drinking Cinnabon coffee. It has a good cinnamon taste to it, and it's not too light. I like it. Makes me happy.
That's awesome. So let's dive into some TTRPG questions. Can you tell us a bit about Pulp?
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. So, like you gloriously said earlier, I am a game designer. And I've done some game design, third party. I've done some work for companies like Raging Swan and Cobalt Press, and I love that work. And it's all for established systems, and it's great. And years ago, I don't remember when I published this, in all honesty, some time ago, I was really frustrated, and I said, I wish there was a fast, generic system that handled a lot of different things well. And while I was writing it, so that's where Pulp came from. I was writing this system called Pulp, where you could sort of use it to play test ideas, run one shots. That was really flexible. That I thought more flexible than I thought some of the systems that existed out there were. But then Fate Accelerated came out while I was writing it. And if you want that system, you should just buy Fate Accelerated. It's better. It's better than Pulp. But I finished Pulp anyway, so it's out there. And you can buy it. But that was my first self-published system. It's a cute. Do I have it here? Yeah, I do. There it is. Oh, there it is. Pulp. This is the first one that we did, Pulp Fantasy. And it's a good system. It's one of those games where your whole character can fit on a Post-it note.
Nice.
And if you need to like write up some more characters, you can do it just as quickly. And we used to use it a lot to play test ideas before developing them into something bigger. So it's good for that. But it's what helped me found my company, which I've been able to do other things with. Beer Star Games, by the way. That was kind of that's the company.
Make sure I get that Nightbot
band
in there.
Beer is in the beverage, star like the thing in the sky, games like what we're talking about.
So speaking of other games that you've written, what about Ace Adventure?
Let's talk about Ace Adventure. I got that over here too.
What inspired it? Tell us about it.
Yeah. Ace Adventure is the game that took me way too long to write. It's sort of my white whale game. It's not even done. Like the soft copy is out there. Some people who back the Kickstarter have it. I got to finish the hard cover edition. But it is a game where you are in an alternate 1930s. The date's vague intentionally so you can kind of do what you need to do with it. And the idea is that there's a time traveler who came back to the 1930s from the far distant future of 2020. And they got kind of stuck there. And since they were stuck, they decided that they had probably already changed history, so they might as well keep going. And they started introducing sort of modern activist punk ideas into society. So we get the 1930s attitude of the sky's the limit, anything is possible, with this wave of people who are just very accepting of people from all walks of life, who are a bit more critical of some of the evils of capitalism than we tended to be at that time. And then at the same time, there's giant monsters that have to be fought. So you get the duality there. You know, we are literal social justice warriors. It's a lot of fun. Yeah,
that does sound fun. I like any opportunity where I get to be a Nazi puncher in game. It's a very important role. That's basically the role I played in our Vampire the Masquerade game. So you don't just write games.
It's true.
You also write supplements and things like that. But I saw that you've written something called Raging Swans GM Miscellany. Urban dressing. Can you tell me about that?
Sure. I don't think I have that one in arm's reach, but y'all can find this on the internet. You're good at internet. Raging Swan is a great company. A little company. They do a lot of supplements that can make your game run faster, so that help the GM with the busy work. That's kind of their whole shtick. And urban dressing. I think urban dressing is the one where I'm one writer and there's many, if I'm not mistaken, because I wrote a few things for them and then I think they got pushed into urban dressing, which is a bigger product. Am I wrong?
I saw you and one other person listed.
Just me and one other person? Oh, then I'm getting the product. I don't know. What is urban dressing? Hold on. let me Google myself real quick. Urban.
I see you.
Drive-Through RPG.
Yeah.
A Pathfinder role-playing game compatible GM's Resource by Ben Armitage, Creighton Broadhurst, Brian Fitzpatrick, James Graham. There's like several names from what.
Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, so I am thinking of the right thing. Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, because urban dressing was like a line that Raging Swan did, and then they had compiled it into like one thick book.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, which is cool. And it was focused on uh, fantasy settings, like your Pathfinder, your Dungeons and Dragons. That was sort of the setting, as it were. And some of them were like towns already written. And I didn't do those though. And some of those, the ones that I worked on were like books of tables to help you come up with hooks and details quickly. So I did one all about temples, where you would go in if you need a quick NPC. Here are your NPC tables. So here's your names, here's your genders, here's your notable feature. So they have something that describes them. Here's what is this temple worship? What are the distinctive features inside? And they were all like that. So there's one on market stalls. There's one on graveyards and cemeteries. It's a very cool series. So if you're the type of person who, when the PCs are in some place and they're not paying attention to what you want them to pay attention, and they're just like, yeah, but what do the walls look like? And you're like, I don't know what the walls look like. That's what this tool is for. If you're one of those people who have a hard time with the details on the fly, you can flip it open and go, oh, this is what the walls are like, and it gives you a nice little hook to build on later most of the time.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. So one of my favorite things about you is that you are just so unabashedly queer. That you had a character that went from being called Red Phantom to now just Pantom.
Yeah.
Can you tell us what inspired that character and what inspired the name change, besides a really good pun?
That was on your channel, on this here channel, TTRPG. We were doing... I forget, Halcyon Pride, Halicon Pride. I always forget how to say it.
I would say Halcyon, but I say things wrong all the time.
Well, we can pretend you're right. Halcyon Pride, which is Halcyon is sort of the default city in Mass the RPG, which is about teenage superheroes, and we decided to have our game during the Pride celebration for the city, which was a lot of fun. And so all of our heroes were a little bit queer, which was great. And I was playing sort of like the peppy, I can't believe I'm a superhero type character who was just happy to be there and be involved. They started off as the Red Phantom, which honestly, because they could walk through walls. And I was just trying to come up with a very classic superhero name that didn't already exist, because there's so much superhero media out there. And they were pansexual. And the pun didn't occur to me at first, but at one point during the game, they had acquired a pansexual flag because of Pride, and they had tied it onto their costume like a cape, and they were running around with it. I don't remember if I made the joke or someone else did. Somebody else recommended the Red Phantom. And as it turned out, we got in a big fight, and they got like green clone goop, I think, all over their outfit.
Yeah.
And so, but they had to go somewhere, make a public appearance somewhere relatively quickly. So instead of cleaning the outfit, they bought spray paint and they sprayed the outfit in the pansexual Pride colors. And they're like, no, I'm the Red Phantom now. This is it. This is who I am. And I got to bring the character back on your regular Mass stream.
Yeah.
Which was a lot of fun. To see the character like after a little bit of time had passed, and be like not a mentor, but the established character in the city for some new young heroes. It was great.
Yeah, and that was really fun to play like fangirling over Pantom with characters who were supposed to be like too cool for school.
Mm-hmm.
So that was really fun. I was gonna say something and I lost it, but that's okay. I have one more question, and then we're gonna talk about the sisters, because I'm so excited.
Okay.
What's Virtual Horror Con? And
Yeah, let's talk about Virtual Horror Con. Yeah. So, Gehenna Gaming is another Twitch stream, and they do a lot of in-person convention stuff too. And they're focused on horror games, which is, that's your thing. That's cool. It's not my thing. It's so weird. I met them at PAX Unplugged, I think, because me and a friend of mine, we run games on demand at PAX Unplugged and at PAX East, which is, if you don't know what Games on Demand is, it's like a place where you can come play indie games at various conventions. So, conventions all over the United States. And I think actually England has Games on Demand to maybe some other places. But they're run by different people all over the place, and it's just a place where you come play games. So I met them there, and it was fine. And they seemed like lovely people, but I'm like, I don't play horror games. I don't like horror too spooky. And but a friend of mine was in their Discord, and he pinged me after the convention, and he said, "Hey, they're talking about you. You might want to join so you can see what they're saying." And I was like, "Well, okay." And it's because at Games on Demand, I tend to run a lot of Monster Hearts. And I don't consider Monster Hearts a horror game. I consider it kind of a queer supernatural game.
Mm-hmm.
But there's enough overlap that they were talking about it. And so then I sort of stuck around, and I ended up running a very long stream with them during our lovely pandemic that we have called Gehenna Valley, which was a Monster Hearts stream. And so I've been involved with Gehenna Gaming ever since. And in 2020, they wanted to run a convention when no one else was really running conventions for obvious reasons. And so they decided to do a virtual convention, and that was the first Virtual Horror Con, and they've done it the last few years. So this will be their third year, I suppose. And they always raise money for charity. So they focus on horror games and horror things. There's panels, there's actual plays, there's games that you can sign up for. So if you go to virtualhorrorcon.com, you can take a look at what's available. Great GMs running private games. You're not going to be streamed if you just sign up for a game. They do consent forms for all the games. We were talking about that earlier, very important to Gehenna. And I'm doing two things this year. I'm doing an actual play of Monster Hearts, because that's kind of my thing with them, which we'll see some friends of TTRPG in that, I believe. So you all should check that out. And I'm also bringing back a panel that I've done quite a few times called Inner Demons, and it's a talk about anxiety and depression with a focus on people who work in or live it as part of the games industry. It's a panel that Chatty DM, or his real name is Philippe Antoine Menard, as a game designer, has worked on the Cortex Plus system, a bunch of other things, started quite some time ago, and it's been at Gen Con, it's been at PAX East, it's been at a few things, and it's just about telling our stories around mental health and normalizing it. So we never have a professional on the panel. It's not about giving you specific advice. It's about talking about what's happened to us and how it affects us and our relationship with tabletop games, just so you can hear other people if you don't normally hear about these things. I was going to say that's a lot of fun. Maybe not fun, but it's good, and I know people appreciate it. So that's Virtual Horror Con. This year we're raising money for I have a second monitor, can you tell? Don't Be a Monster, which is a bullying prevention charity. So really want to make that a real successful con, and that is July 8th through 10th, and it's all online. It's still all virtual.
That's awesome. So, let's talk about the Sisters.
Okay.
What chapter of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence are you a part of?
Yep.
And what kind of work do y'all do?
Okay, so...
And I have two more questions that will follow up with that.
Yeah, so the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. I am part of the Boston chapter. There are kind of some people behind me here. That's actually not our house. It's just a great background. But they are an international order, or should I say we are an international order of queer clown nuns. And we are a-religious. We are nuns, but we take our vows and we take them directly to the community. So you'll find people of all sorts of faiths involved. And by community, I am talking about the LGBTQIA2 plus community. Um, all of the chapters are registered nonprofits. We operate relatively independent of one another. And we're here to reach out, spread joy, eliminate guilt, and support the community however we can. So, as an example, it's Pride Month. It's a very busy month for us. I was at the first ever Trans Pride celebration at the beginning of this month in Boston. We had never had a specific Trans Pride before, and that was lovely. While I was there, me and brother Gary Kruder was able to raise $650 just from people's pocket cash for the Trans Emergency Fund in Boston, which is focused on housing trans people in distress. They do some other things, but that's their big goal. We're very excited about that. We were able to support the Dyke March in Boston this year and help them raise funds. I was just at, the reason my voice is a little sketchy is I was just down in Providence, Rhode Island. It's the Boston House is the closest house for most of New England for Providence Pride, which was great. Lovely to see everyone down there. And it's so it's a focus on charity, but sometimes we're doing education, sometimes we're doing activism, sometimes it's just about entertainment. We do a little bit here and there. And that's the Boston Sisters. There's a lot of information online. If you want to learn more, y'all can always reach out to me too. I'll drop my social later, obviously. But the bostonsisters.org, that's my house. But we are all over the place. We're in Germany. We're in Australia. We're in, I think there's a house in Argentina. I forget.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have a friend who is part of the sisterhood here in the Seattle area, and she loves it. And I remember going to like a food festival when I first moved to Seattle. So this was back in like 2011, and running into a group of sisters of Perpetual Indulgence nuns, and just like I don't know if it's like radar for queer people or what, but they were just so welcoming towards me and like stopped to chat with me because I had just moved here. I didn't know what it was about, what they were about. So I had ooh, who are you? Like, you look beautiful. And so we got to chatting, and they were just so sweet and welcoming, and it was really awesome. And I wasn't even out then. And so it's just like to have that queer representation and see it so loud and proud and everyone in their signature color and all these things was really amazing. And I'm glad, I love the idea of your vows being to the community, which as a teacher really applies to my life a little bit. Because my dedication is to our community as well. What's your drag name? Do you have one?
Oh, yeah. So I am novice sister Freddie Ann Willing. We all choose our own name. There's some great names in the house. We all choose our own name, and it's supposed to sort of represent you, something that you're passionate about that ties you back to the house, something where if you end up on TV for some reason, they can print on the screen and we'll be all right. So that's my name. Yeah.
What's your signature color?
Oh, so we don't have that,
right?
You
don't do that. Okay.
Yeah, I mentioned, how we're all sort of independent of each other. And so I do find out things here and there about the other houses that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I've never even thought of that. But I don't have a signature color.
I like the idea because then if you're in a group, everyone's wearing a different color. So you're a different color from the pride flag. So I think that's probably why they do that.
We have that for like special events. Like next weekend is North Shore Pride. And we've got these full sequined Kafkins that are all different pride colors.
Yes.
And we're going to be doing that for that. So sometimes it comes out, but no one's green and no one's purple. It's just whatever Kafkin you're wearing that day. I wear a lot of purple.
Yeah. Purple's a good color. I think I like purple because it looks good on everybody. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, queerness is like a big part of the channel here. As you said, your Halcyon Pride was surrounding the Pride, and we actually raised money for Equality Texas during that stream. For Fae Fair, we'll raise money for Glisten. So like, this is a very queer channel. We found that a lot of people explore their identities through tabletop role-playing games and other geek culture aspects. So comics, that sort of thing. Like, I don't know about you, but I very much like was bonded to X-Men. Would you say that queerness inspires your work in TTRPG and other writing venues? Or would you say that the things you're into helped you explore your queerness?
Oh, both. Those aren't exclusive to each other at all. So I have talked to so many people who have started their personal exploration through a character that they got to play. And I love that. I love that so much. I think that tabletop games give us a safe space to try something out that we've never really tried before, but also to see other people playing in that same space. And I think that's just as important. And when you see other people really engaging with these ideas, it gives you permission to do the same. And that's why one of the reasons why I love actual plays, because it gives people the chance to see something they might never have seen before. So I love it. I love that stuff. I think it can be as simple as playing a character of a different gender or sexuality in a game like D&D, but we've got these great games that take queerness and put a spotlight on it. I mentioned Monster Hearts. I've kind of become known for Monster Hearts.
Thirsty Sword Lesbians.
Thirsty Sword Lesbians is lovely. We talked about Masks. Masks is out there. There's so many. I'm looking at my bookshelf. You can't tell, but I'm looking at my bookshelf because there's so many. And I love that. But I also love the games where it's not the point, but we've been able to do so much with it. I love that we're getting another Marvel RPG now. Marvel has been very good in the last couple of decades, especially about giving us content where it's not necessarily about being queer. It's just a normal option. And the games like that give people an excuse, where they don't have to say, I'm doing this to try it out. They don't have to say, like, I don't know, they don't need a reason. They can just say, well, I'm playing Wiccan, and Wiccan is gay because it's established. I think as many options as we can give people, the better. And then the other half was, would my personal experience, I'm screwing up your question. Would you say that
you were talking about the influences of queerness on the things that you make, and then how the things you make can help you explore queerness?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, my games are queer, obviously. If you take a look at Ace Adventure, there are sort of standard characters in the book, where if you don't want to make up your own characters, you can just get going with characters that have like relationships established. And they're all something, there's I'm sorry, I got way off track. I'm not going to talk about that. We're going to move on. And inside Ace Adventure, we have this idea of what is sort of your main punk activism, and everybody sort of chooses one. And there's Riot Girl, there's Queercore, there's a bunch of other things, but we made sure that those are all in there, so you can really focus that social justice part of the game too. And I think of it, like I said, it's all so important. So yeah, my life inspires my games, but I also choose games because of my life. It all builds.
That's awesome. All right, last question. What would you like to plug?
Oh my gosh, yes. So I told you to go to bostonsisters.org. You should. And if you go to the bostonsisters.org, there is a little tab. It says social. Okay. And you can find our social medias there. We just started a campaign that we're doing. Every Tuesday, we're releasing a new, very simple, positive affirmation. So this week's was You Deserve Love, which is one of the main tenets of the Boston Sisters. And a spoiler, okay? This Tuesday is just we support same-sex parents. And we're going to have at least 40 weeks of this, where every week we just push out another one. And so I'm very excited about that campaign. So I'm kind of pushing our social media right now. But you can also figure out what events we're doing. And I don't know where you are. I'm pointing to the people at home. But there's a very good chance there's a house near you. So if you check out the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, the main website is out there somewhere. I don't know what it is. They try to keep as an active list as possible of all the houses. I know it's not 100%, so just do your Google diligence. There's probably a house near you. So check them out. And of course, I'm Brian. I'm at Brian Liberge at Twitter. And beerstargames.com is there. So you should totally check that out. Oh, one more plug, because I said I was going to do it and I forgot. I held up a beer earlier, right? Now, I'm pretty sure you can only buy this in Massachusetts unless you have a very good beer mail service. And I know the laws in states all vary on how that works. But we are working with a local brewery called Aeronaut. They're fantastic. This is a seasonal brew. It's called Journey to the Center. They re-release it every so often. And this year, the sales are benefiting the Boston Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. So we're very happy about that. So that's going to be in my cup later. So that's my last plug. Okay. If you can get it, you should drink it. It tastes like hibiscus.
Ooh, fancy. So I have a quick story for you because of the supporting queer families thing. So my school this year, because I'm in Washington and I'm in a fairly progressive area. We actually did a Pride theme for our equity for the month of June.
Love it.
And our theme was Pride in Myself and Pride in My Family. And we even had a Pride Spirit Day. And my kids were like, "Oh, what do I wear?" Because I teach 10 and 11-year-olds. And they were like, "What do I wear? I don't have any rainbows," and blah, blah. And I was like, "Do I just wear something bright and colorful?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I was like, "But if I got you Pride stickers, like, would you guys wear them?" And they were very enthusiastic about getting Pride stickers. And so I got Pride stickers, and then I got them ribbon. And the day of the day, I wore my, proud teacher. You might have seen it on Twitter. I took pictures of all the other teachers in their Pride outfits. And I'm had one kid handing out stickers because I only have so many hands. And then I'm tying rainbow ribbon around wrists and in hair. And one girl took one of those little paper boats and then made a pride flag out of cardboard and then made it into a headband and had her own little pride float on her head. And
I love that.
And we were going on a field trip to the middle school. So she went to the middle school like that, which I did see several kids with like pride capes on. It was very cute.
Great.
And so I was like really giddy because it was a really nice day. It was like 70 and sunny, or 65 and sunny. It's Washington. What am I saying? It was 65 and sunny. I'm very giddy. Like I'm in a good mood. I've got my flower crown on. I'm putting ribbons and stickers on kids. And my students were like, "Why are you so cheerful? You're never this cheerful in the morning." And I was like, which is true. I'm usually not awake yet. But I was like, well, first of all, it's a nice day. But second of all, and I like gesture to my classroom, like, this never would have happened when I was a kid. And it made me feel like I was very lonely, and it made me feel broken.
Yes.
And so I know that kids like me are going to see you guys and feel safer and more welcome here and are going to feel comfortable being themselves.
Yes.
And so like, that's what I meant when I said like I have the same vows, is that like that's my goal in life, is to like help those queer kids be comfy and to be positive representation of what it means to be queer. And so yeah, I just wanted to share that story with you because
I love that. I love that. Real quick, I just want to jump on that. So I'm Boston based, and up until very recently, Boston has had the fourth largest parade in the country. Not the fourth largest Pride parade, the fourth largest parade in the country.
Yeah.
And it was the Boston Pride Parade. It was absolutely huge. It was bigger than the New York St. Patrick's Day Parade, but
Wow.
not quite as big as the New York Thanksgiving Day Parade, you know, so that gives you an idea. And it was Pride. The fact that the Pride Parade was that big was just crazy. And there's a little drama at the moment. The Pride Parade people dissolved themselves. And so this year, even though so many events are back, the parade isn't.
That's
And
so
so
sad.
when I'm out, everyone is asking me, what do you think about Boston Pride and what's going on there? And my answer has been, I think it is a twofold thing. One, I think there is a small blessing because this year, people feel more comfortable going out. So we're going out, we're doing things again for Pride. And because the parade's not here, there is so much more of a spotlight on all the little events happening, because it's always been more than the parade. There's always lots of things happening in New England around Pride. And we've been able to really highlight those things because there's no parade to distract you. But I am ready for the parade to come back. I firmly believe it'll be back next year because the little things are great. It helps you really form a sense of community. It really highlights the work that people are doing. But for some people, they'll never get the opportunity to see those things. They don't know they exist. So you need the big visible things as well. So somebody can go and say, this is an option. Look at all these people who are living their true selves and how many different versions of that there are. So they know that the feelings and thoughts that they are having are legitimate, that this is an identity that you can possess, that it's not like necessarily a passing thing. Like these are options. And so I had to throw that in. I know we're running late. But that's so important.
And then we'll move. Then Char has a quick plug, and then we'll do our channel plugs real quick. But in response to what you just said, I marched with Washington Educators Association one year.
Yes.
And it was exhausting. It was so hot. I would do it again, maybe in a couple years. That's how exhausting it was. But the looks on the kids, the queer kids, like the queer teens and the young adults' faces when they saw this huge group of queer teachers walking by.
Yes.
Whoops. I responded to the wrong comment in Zoom. Sorry. Got distracted. But anyway, so the looks on their faces was worth how bad my feet hurt after that.
Yes.
So yeah. I'm going to transition us over real quick back to Char so that they can do a quick plug. But thank you so much for jumping on last minute and being such an awesome guest. We're going to switch right back over to Char real quick, and then me and Darby, and then we will wrap things up.
Okay.
All right, Char, you're on.
Hi everybody, I'm back. Woohoo! I just realized I had such a brain fart. This is the TTRPG Pride episode, and we were talking about streaming for survivors. How could I forget to share that on July 1st, you're getting a sneak peek. July 1st, we are doing Streaming for Survivors Pride Edition, and it's going to be with DMB Dave Walters. I can't share the cast yet, but the link to donate is already live at bit.ly/WAVA Pride. There's already, we've got a free TTRPG goodie package. If you donate $10 or more, you can get a free Big Bad from Hit Point Press, a PDF adventure from One Page Mage, and a bunch of other TTRPG goodies. And all of that will benefit survivors of sexualized violence, specifically the Two-Spirit LGBTQIA+ survivors at WAVA. So if you have the funds, go ahead and donate. If not, just share away. And check it out. On July 1st, you can also impact the game with your donations.
Awesome.
It'll be on D&D Beyond's channel because they're partnering with WAVA for it.
That's so cool. Awesome.
That's
Congratulations
awesome.
on that. All right. So bringing it just me and Darby back. What do you have to plug? What projects are you doing, Darby? Are you doing any? Are you on any more shows right now?
Yes, I am. I'm in a lot of shows currently. You can find me every Tuesday. The First Watch YouTube channel uploads a episode. They are pre-recorded episodes of D&D 5th edition game. that is just campaign 2 of their D&D world. I play Peony. She's small. She thinks she's an artificer. She's really a ranger with A level in artificer. She's not very bright. Bless her. But I'm there. You can also find me on Girls Run These Worlds, in their Wolf Luck game. I have a lot of D&D games. I've recently counted, it was like 5 different games.
Wow.
There's that, and then there is my Shadowrun game on Fridays. That is, I think that's it for now.
Okay.
Everything else is sort of behind the scenes sort of work. So.
Oh, all right. So what I have going on is what time is that? I can't remember. I think it's 5 p.m. Pacific, or it might be 4 p.m. Pacific. I have to look. But Tuesday, our Starship Troopers inspired tabletop role playing game. It's actually a Wrath and Glory game, because we took a look at the Starship Troopers game and didn't really like scream out at us as something we wanted to play. So, but that's called Guns, Bugs, and Steel, and that'll be on this channel on Tuesday evenings through the beginning of July. So starting this Tuesday, and then this Thursday, please tune in for Rainbows. It's our all himbos, thembos, and bimbos one shot of Thirsty Sword Lesbians, where we will be raising more funds for Equality Texas. And I'm really excited. I'm playing a Chosen, who is a pop star, and her name is Lynette Lamore. And I will be wearing a blonde wig. She's very like Baby Spice meets Jennifer Tilly. It's going to be really great. And I hope that everyone will tune in for that and help us raise some funds. And then on Wednesdays, we also have a game going on called Dead or Alive that is a zombie thriller that's set in, it's like I call it the tropical zombie thriller, which is very campy and a little bit scary, which we like around these parts. And then the first week of July starts Los Casados, which is our drama-filled Haunted West campaign. It will be very spooky and sad, and we're really excited about it. So tune in for all of those things, and everybody take care, and happy Pride.